Greetings, everyone. Thanks for joining me today on the eve of Memorial Day weekend 2023. Appreciate you taking the time to pop in and watch these videos. So, the release date for this week is Friday, May 26th. Um, got a bit of fond farewell to this lady, Tina Turner. What an icon, what a legend, what a trendsetter, what a rule breaker, what a inspiration. Really just a fascinating and fantastic person, and fantastic artist over several decades. And yeah, a lot of her material was written for her, but it was all in the delivery and the embodiment of those songs. And this album, when it came out, Private Dancer, 1983, 84, um, it was sort of like out of the blue, kind of. It's kind of hard to explain to young people how her career had basically been put completely on ice, and all of a sudden she just blasted out of the gates with this. Now, granted, the first single was a remake of Al Green's Let's Stay Together, and it was more of a hit in the UK than it was in the US. It was kind of a really cool, smooth version of it, produced by some of the guys from Heaven 17, who were a sort of a electronic band at the time. They'd come out of original versions of the Human League, and so that was kind of their task to sort of like work with Tina, and ended up producing like three songs on this album. I think a lot of times people don't realize all the people that went into making Private Dancer as an album. There were a few tracks that were done by Rupert Hine, who was a producer and musician, and Jamie West Oram featured on those tracks. So there was like a group. The Fix was a popular band at the time. So they worked on songs like Better Be Good to Me. And then you also had Mark Knopfler wrote the song Private Dancer as a sort of like what would have been a Dire Straits song. Probably wouldn't have necessarily worked as much. It's certainly not as popular as Tina singing that song. So several different production teams worked on that. Terry Britton did What's Love Got to Do with It. A guy named Carter produced a couple other tracks on there. So it was a lot of people, but she was very well shepherded through the 80s once that sort of happened, and EMI sort of really promoted her career, and it gave her the strength to come back and do the whole movie, the Angela Bassett movie, really the Tina's story dealing with her abusive ex-husband Ike. What's Love Got to Do with It? So anyway, R.I.P. Tina. She had a very good run, and it's a sadder world without her, I think, today. All right, so let me get to like some new releases, because we didn't come here just for eulogies, right? But have to mention her because I think she sort of paved the way for a lot of people. Okay, so there's a kind of a hodgepodge again this week of new releases and reissues. So I'm just going to go through these in the order that I happen to have them right here. The first thing, this is not something that people haven't seen before. It's Stone Temple Pilots' Purple, back on vinyl again. It's been maybe a year or two since I've seen the original regular pressing of this, but the thing that makes this special is it's on clear vinyl. It's part of the Atlantic 75th anniversary series. So, yeah, limited edition crystal clear vinyl. So it's kind of a collector's edition. And I don't know, there's people out there that say that clear vinyl's the best sounding vinyl because there's been nothing added to it. I don't know about that. Another big thing is Steely Dan, Countdown to Ecstasy. So they're continuing with the Steely Dan reissue series. And so far, it's just been Can't Buy a Thrill, and now this album. This is the one that features Bodhisattva. I don't know if I'm saying that right. Showbiz Kids. Um, but we're going sort of chronologically, I guess. These are supposedly excellent sounding transfers of these albums, so you can get the super duper UHQR limited edition box sets of these for like $150, or for $35 ish. You can get like reissues of just the actual albums that sound great if yours have been played a lot or you want a really good sounding version of it. I believe the first one was done. I want to say Bernie Grunman, I think, did the remastering on that, and that got very good reviews. So, all right, number two in this Concord OJC remastered series that Records are doing, Recordings, with Kevin Gray, who does all of the Blue Note. Second one here, Thelonious Monk with John Coltrane. This is a major sort of classic jazz record that deserved a sort of a really good, easily gettable audiophile edition. And so we have it. It's in kind of a nice thick cover, the way that the Miles Davis Workin' was last couple weeks ago. Yeah, it's got this kind of OB, which I don't know if that's really necessary, but it's not a gatefold, but it's a very nice addition. So and comparable sounding to the Blue Note Tone Poets and stuff like that. Another great reissue this week. I'm looking forward to this. Verve's Acoustic Sound series, and this is Jazz Samba by Stan Getz and Charlie Bird. And this is a gatefold, as the Acoustic Sounds ones have been, and very nicely packaged. And you know, almost nothing probably sounds better than Jazz Sambas done on audiophile recordings, I would imagine. They're just so intimate and warm sounding records, and a lot of these original, when they came out on Verve, they were not necessarily the best sounding records to begin with. The vinyl itself was not always, however Verve sourced them, it was not always the best. So these are actually getting really good reviews as being like finally a really good sounding version of these that are affordable. So Carole King, Home Again. So, Carole King concert from 1973. This was in Central Park for 100,000 people. Surprising that it really hadn't gotten, as far as I know, a release until now. But yeah, so this features a lot of her famous songs. You've Got a Friend. Let's see, Smackwater Jack, It's Too Late, and then a bunch of other stuff that she was doing in the early 70s. So, material that probably reflected some of the stuff that came after Tapestry. But anyway, that's kind of a very interesting archival release. Well, this album might need a little, I don't know, explanation. Black Country New Road, their last album, Ants from Up Here, was probably, if not the highest rated or touted indie sort of release of, was it last year? Maybe the year before. It was, I think it was last year, early last year. And this is the follow up. So this is this band's third album, Live at Bush Hall. The thing that makes this interesting is that the day that, pretty much the day or the week that the last record came out, the lead singer quit the band because he had a lot of personal and emotional things that he wanted to address, and he felt like he couldn't go on. So this is actually the first recording with the new lead singer, which was, I think, a female in the band, and then one of the other guys. They kind of share some duties on vocals, but so it's the same band, but not. It features also one of the girls, or the girl from Jockstrap, that band. But anyway, and they have their own sort of thing going. But this trying to solve a problem of like, how do you follow up a release like that when you can't tour with your original lead singer, And so they've kind of like had to rebuild the band and thought doing a live record was probably a good idea. And the live record is all new material, all new songs. So 5 stars from The Guardian, an evolving and genuinely one-off band. 5 stars from NME, a marvelous return from one of our greatest bands. So it is getting very high critical acclaim, but it is basically a different sounding band. If you heard Ants from Up Here, you know what a great album that was, or From Up There. It had just such really interesting narratives, and I don't know, it was a very important independent release. So it's good to see them back. One that I've been really looking forward to is the new Sparks record. The Girl is Crying in Her Latte. And this is Sparks' spectacular new masterpiece on heavyweight vinyl. This is made in Germany. I'm not sure, this might be like their 20th, 25th album, something like that. These guys have been making records since about, well, the turn of the 70s. One of their first albums, I think the first album was actually produced by Todd Rundgren. And then they recently appeared on one of Todd's, his recent album, Space Force. But so there's 14 tracks. It's getting very high critical praise. It's on Island Records. They've returned to Island Records, where they sort of started with their big releases, if you want to call them big, things like Kimono, My House, Propaganda. They were bigger albums in the UK than they were in the US. They never really broke through in the US, which was kind of sad since they were from Los Angeles. But two brothers, Ron is the older of the two, and he's the main songwriter, and I believe he's 78 now. So they've been going for quite a while. Recently had a bunch of film work that they did, a documentary. You probably have known this, called Sparks Brothers, I believe. Anyway, what else can I say about this except the price is sort of, I'm like, I'm not, I love that you're returning to Island Records, but you know, when it's a little over $40 for a single black record, I don't think it's double vinyl. And the last record that came out when they were on BMG was maybe $35 to $40, and it was a double vinyl. So you're paying more for like half as much, not material because there's still all the songs, but half as much resources that are going into making that. So I don't know how I feel about that yet, but of course I'll buy it because I love Sparks. So go figure. I'm just, that's my soapbox for this video. Okay. Arlo Parks, Soft Machine. Well, I really liked her last record. I thought her debut was quite good. So I'm looking forward to hearing what she has to do with this one. She was a Brit Award and Mercury Prize winning artist. So kind of like soul folk music, I guess, sort of. I don't know. She'll get lumped in with people like Tracy Chapman, even though she really doesn't sound too much like that. New Matchbox 20 record. I know it's been a while. This one's called Where the Light Goes, featuring the single Wild Dogs. It's been a while for them, I think, too. Yeah, this is Amanda Shires features on a track. Back is not really all that interesting. I guess you can look up the track listing online if you want. I suppose the big daddy of the week as far as like box setage goes would be the new Sun Ra box set, Space is the Place, and it's kind of a hunka chunka there. The box is interesting because it's sort of a cardboard box more than typical box. It does have a tote bag in here so you can carry around your Sun Ra proudly. It does feature 40 minutes of unissued Sun Ra studio recordings from this, which might be of interest to some people who are into Sun Ra. It's not cheap because it's 3 records, a DVD, and a Blu-ray. So you're over the $120 mark, you know. But anyway, if you're that much into jazz or that much into Sun Ra, you might want to check that out. Aerosmith. So there's an Aerosmith reissue campaign that's starting. And we get Rocks, back in print. Um, Toys in the Attic. These are sort of iconic records, right? Night in the Ruts and Get Your Wings. And there are more to come. Um, the one with Dream On, self-titled, is coming ironically later on a different record label. So somehow they split up who is putting these out. I think. Well, maybe these are all Capitol. Oh, they are all Capitol. Sorry. So anyway, but those are coming later. They're coming in two or three different waves, I think. So, and then the Geffen stuff is still on Geffen. But these are actually remastered from the original source tapes, whatever that means. But that means they probably sound really good. So, if you're looking for, now they're not cheap. I wouldn't say they're expensive. They're just sort of, it's average pricing now, isn't it? Anything in the 30s. Okay. Some more reissues. Danny Elfman's Solo. This is done by Rubellin Remasters. He's been doing Oingo Boingo stuff. This is the 1984 debut, solo debut from Danny. Yellow and black marble, marble vinyl, and limited edition of 500. So that'll probably be gone quick. Joe Perry. I guess I should have put this with the Aerosmith stuff. Switzerland Manifesto. This is Purple and White Swirl, and this was one of his more recent albums that's just been reissued. Lucy Dacus, if you're into Boy Genius and Phoebe Bridgers. This is Historian, the 5th anniversary edition. I don't know why they bother putting stuff like that on stickers, but it's pressed on limited red vinyl and includes never before seen original artwork. So, yeah, such as the back. Ariana Grande, Thank You Next. She's not licking any donuts here, although she is upside down, and she probably still hates Americans. I don't know. No. Anyway, I find it hard to get over that. So anyway, yeah, this was. She likes being upside down on her album covers too. We'll do that. That'll drive her crazy. Rico Nasty. Black Punk 1 on 5 and Gotcha Get Paid are some of the songs on this record. Exclusive vinyl. The album features those rebel anthems, and this is part of Atlantic Records reissues. I think there's maybe a newer Rico Nasty out. I don't know that much about her. You guys probably know more, at least those of you who are into that sort of thing. Charlie XCX, I do really enjoy her. True Romance. This is a reissue of, I believe, her first album. I don't know if I've ever seen this on vinyl before. Features Brooke Candy on a track. But Charlie's a great pop singer, and yeah, worth checking out if you're into pop. Yeah, sort of like offspring of Madonna type stuff. Beth Hart, live at Royal Albert Hall, and this is a 3-record set. It's fairly substantial on purple vinyl, priced very, very modestly. So anyway, that's a good value. Asia, Phoenix. So I told you there's a lot of reissues this week. Phoenix, this was an album of theirs from 2008, and this is on vinyl now. This black vinyl double LP, their 2008 reunion. Jeff Downs, Steve Howe, Carl Palmer, and John Wetton, R.I.P. Let's see, Disney. Well, what can we say about Disney this week? I mean, I'm touching all the hot topics, right? Little Mermaid. You think you're watching The View, and this is the live action soundtrack. So this actually features stuff with Halle Bailey singing, who is part of Chloe and Halle, the duo, and related to Beyonce, is in that lead role. So anyway, that should be coming soon. Big Fish. This is the Danny Elfman soundtrack. Also features the Pearl Jam song Man of the Hour, which I don't think is available on anything else. Anyway, this is the music on vinyl pressing, the audiophile edition, 20th anniversary, 750 numbered copies on gold and black marbled vinyl. Features songs by Elvis, Buddy Holly, Bing Crosby, Canned Heat, and more. This is number 455. So, yeah. And a lot of Danny Elfman soundtrack music. That was actually a really great soundtrack, too. His score was great. Reissue from Shinedown, The Sound of Madness. This is one of their most popular records. I think maybe it was the first or second one. I'm not sure. Not a huge Shinedown fan, but Shinedown fans can mention in the comments. Simple Plan. This is one that I think if you're into like pop punk or some of the aughts, you would probably be looking for this. Let's see. I'm not sure exactly what year. Oh, 2002. I Do Anything, The Worst Day Ever, I'm Just a Kid, You Don't Mean Anything. This was a very popular record on CD, I think. So it's cool seeing that on vinyl. Going back about similar era, I guess a little earlier maybe, Exploding Hearts. And this is their album, Guitar Romantic. And this is also sort of punk, pop punk, I guess, in celebration of the 20th anniversary. Yeah, this was on, I don't know, this was not quite as big of an album as Simple Plan was, but I do remember seeing it at the time. Dandy Warhol's The Black Album. Well, of course, they had to have their own Black Album, right? And it's got the banana on the back that you can kind of see in black, but I don't remember much about this when it came out, but I don't know. I always found the Dandy Warhols entertaining, and that whole sort of deal with Brian Jonestown massacre. Suicide, a reissue of their album A Way of Life. This you don't see every day. 35th anniversary. Original album remastered on transparent blue vinyl, plus an art bonus card and bonus tracks. It has their version of Born in the USA, that is the Springsteen song, Live in Paris, 1988, tacked on the end of this. So, Alan Vega, Martin Rev, and produced by Rick Ocasek. Ocasek? Everyone says it differently. I say Ocasek, you say Ocasek, I say tomato, you say tomato. Let's call the whole thing off. Swerve Driver. This is a reissue of an EP, Petroleum Spirit Days, early EP, iconic EP. Yeah. These, I would imagine, are super limited. And the last record in this pile, interesting, David Sylvian and Stephen Matthew, Wandermood or Wandermude, depending on if you're German or not, I suppose. Is it Muta? Yeah, I guess so. Includes a bonus track, remastered. So I was kind of checking this out because I was very interested. They said that, it used a lot of the tracks from David Sylvian's Blemish album, and it does, but I'm not sure. I did not hear Sylvian singing at all. I think it's all instrumental or mainly instrumental, and it's very ambient, sort of like kind of mood music to kind of like take you down after a long hard day at work. You just decompress. It's very like, it's almost like kind of like not white noise, but it has that sort of effect of like, chill. There wasn't much in the way of CDs that are not featured here on vinyl. There's the Barnstormers, which is, I believe, sort of like rockabilly stuff, but it features Slim Jim Phantom and Jimmy Barnes, Kevin Shirley, and Jules Holland, probably on piano there. I don't know what else Jules would be playing. Metal Church, their new CD, Congregation of Annihilation, which I think is also available on vinyl. and a live Tesla CD, Full Throttle Live. So if you're still following Tesla, you might want to pick that up. All right, and I've been doing these little critic corner things, and basically I'm just picking out albums that I love or have liked over the years, and I'm trying to not pick the same things that everybody else always picks because what's the point? You guys are gonna hear. I could talk all day about OK Computer or I don't know, something 3 Feet High and Rising, something Random Access Memories. I mean, maybe I should be talking about those records, but I'm kind of picking things that I like, and I'm picking things that I've been seeing around the store, so they are available for sale. But at some point, I may be bringing in or showing some of my personal records because I keep thinking, oh, there's this or there's this or there's this I really want to show you or talk about, and they're no longer in print. So that's just the way it is. But my choice this week, I guess sort of interestingly, is Duran Duran, and it's an album called All You Need Is Now, and this was reissued last fall on magenta vinyl. It has a very magenta-ish sort of cover, so that's nice, the matchup here. But this record, if you ask me, what are your favorite Duran Duran albums? Now, I grew up in the 80s, so I'm a child of the 80s. My friends loved Duran Duran. I got into it through friends and was really into British pop. If you haven't noticed already, I mean, my first couple choices here what were The Cure and Kate Bush. I can't remember last week, but I've been choosing very British pop, and that's just sort of to kind of put that in perspective. I grew up in the center of the U.S., pretty much the geographic center. Very isolated kind of place. I mean, it was a great town, very college oriented and such, but very isolated. You took one step out of town and you saw prairie for hours. That's all that was out there. And it's very isolating for someone who was very artistically motivated like me to be kind of in that. And once I sort of discovered a lot of the British pop outside of like corporate American rock, that really like lit a fire in me because it was a sort of a sense of escapism, and the music was so interesting, and it was just completely like foreign. I mean, honestly, it was foreign in a way that we weren't getting from a lot of American art. And there were some great American artists, don't get me wrong. I mean, Talking Heads, Blondie. I mean, I did love that stuff too. I have to say, I did come a little later to Talking Heads, and at first I thought they were super weird. So that kind of did, take a little bit. But Duran Duran was one of the first bands that, I loved. I thought Bowie was really interesting. I didn't know much about him at the time in the early 80s. Wasn't really till Let's Dance sort of, came along and ignited most kids at that stage. And also, like, I love the Beatles and I love the Stones, but I didn't really own records by them. So this was like one of the first British bands that I really got into. Anyway, so if you were to ask me what's my favorite album by them, I would probably say Rio first because that's sort of like a given for most people. And maybe the second album or this one would be number two. And people say like, really, this one? And well, it came out in 2010 to 11. Depends on which version you got. I was so annoyed when they put this out originally because it came out like sort of digital first, and it had 9 tracks. And then 3 or 4 months later, they released the rest of the album when it came out physically. Well, the problem is that era, so many people were starting to do like streaming or downloading, and so all they ever thought of this album were the first 9 songs. Well, there's actually 14 songs on the record, so they were sort of missing the whole last third of it. And I feel like there are still people out there that have downloaded versions of this album that only have the first 9 songs, so you are missing the last portion of it. Anyway, I thought they did a very inspired thing by choosing Mark Ronson as their producer. He was, I'm sure, not cheap because he was having hits of his own at the time. And he had just come off producing people like Amy Winehouse. But I think that they gave him like they'd already done their reunion at this time. Andy Taylor had come and gone. And so they were working with Don Brown as a guitarist who does a very good job on this record, although I think Mark plays a lot of the guitar himself. But they asked, like, can you make us sound? I don't know if they asked or if he said, I want to, I believe it was probably more him actually. It said, I want to make the classic Duran Duran record. I want to make you sound the way that you sounded when people first fell in love with you. And that's pretty much what this album is. It is like very close to like their original sound, which was kind of a breezy, synthy rock dance kind of version of like it's like Rio, but maybe less Caribbean or islandy, I suppose. But there are elements of island and summer and stuff like that on some of these songs. So I'm just gonna like run through this. First off, the song "All You Need Is Now," the title song, is not really my favorite song. This is the very first song on the record, and it starts with this kind of grating like keyboard sound. I don't know why or how they chose that as like this sound to start it with. But once you get into the meat of the song, the chorus and everything, it's actually a really great song. It has a very good chorus. And I kind of feel like as you go through the album, you really get the sense of like, it's hard to believe that Simon Le Bon, the lead singer at this stage, was in his late 50s and singing with the voice that he sang with basically that he had when he was 25. I mean, I'm sure there probably was a little bit of digital manipulation, but it's pretty good. He's really taken care of his instrument, and that really shone through. So anyway, second track, "Blame the Machines," is very like kind of early Duran-esque. It has like kind of a almost like this kind of quick pace type rhythm to it, and it's a little the synths are a little jittery, but there's a lot of kind of quick programming going on there to kind of fill in the gaps. And it's kind of a song about paranoia, which is followed with track three being followed, which is probably one of the best songs on this record. It does have that sense of like Girls on Film type, the earlier Duran songs, and it definitely feels like, this is music for being followed kind of by the paparazzi or whatever, something that they're very well versed in at this point. Number four, "Leave a Light On." That song is a sort of a mellow ballad, and it's one of their best. I always thought, I don't know why this song isn't like a bigger hit. I mean, it's not quite Save a Prayer level, but it's not that far off, and it's probably better than some of the ballads that they did on, like even the Red Carpet Massacre ballads, which that album is sort of like controversial. I like it, but some people really just don't like all the Timbaland on there. And that's something that Duran, they like to collaborate. But when they give too much of themselves over to the producer, it's sort of like anything where you kind of lose the elements of yourself because you've given that much over. But "Safe" in the heat of the moment is just kind of to me, that's sort of like that kind of catchy song that could have been almost by anybody. It's not quite as like, oh, that's a Duran song, but I do like the animatronic, her little kind of spoken word vocals in the song, which add a lot. She was in Scissor Sisters, who are also no longer functioning apparently because Jake keeps releasing solo records. "Girl Panic" is amazing, amazing song, and the sort of energy of that is very much like Girls on Film, Careless Memories, those early kind of edgy Duran songs that had a lot of energy. There are a couple of tracks here, "Diamond in the Mine" and "Return to Now." Those are actually just orchestral sort of placeholders that are done by Owen Pallett, who worked with like Arcade Fire on a lot of their orchestral arrangements and stuff. So there's no singing really; it's all samples. The Man Who Stole a Leopard. This is kind of the centerpiece of the album, and it's one of my favorite tracks on the album. Musically, it's sort of a mix of their two songs, Tel Aviv, which was an instrumental, and The Chauffeur, which is the amazing song that closes Rio. And it also features Khalees on backing vocals, the milkshake girl. Yeah, and it's a great story song about a guy who actually sort of, stole a leopard, living in a building apartment in New Jersey, and sort of like he almost became so enamored with this creature that could kill him, but he couldn't get rid of it, and sort of talks about the removal of this leopard. It's a very specific song lyrically, but it's a great song. It's very interesting, and it shows them willing to take still these artistic leaps. Other people's lives, and Too Bad You're So Beautiful, Runway Runaway, they're all super catchy, like very old time Duran sounding songs. And Runway Runaway in particular, I love. It's just a very breezy kind of song. Mediterranean is a very islandy kind of song for them. It's sort of that summery stuff that they used to do, like early 80s kind of sounding. And then Before the Rain, the closing track here, which I prefer this version of the album to any of the others as far as the tracks. Usually, like, sometimes the bonus tracks don't really add anything, but I think Before the Rain is a great closer, because it's just kind of a darker song, and it's also sort of chauffeur-esque, but not quite as like creepy as that. It's just a darker song, slower. But I highly recommend, if you have not heard this album and you like Rio or you like the first Duran Duran album, this is like, it's really the sonic follow up to Rio out of all of the other like 12 albums that they've done. So actually, it might be like 13 at this point, because I think this was the 13th and they've had two since. So anyway, my recommend for this week is Duran Duran, All You Need Is Now. And I'll try to keep these coming. And look, I could talk about that album in under 10 minutes. I don't know what happened last week. I was like, I'm going to pick a shorter album here. And I still ended up talking for like 15-20 minutes about it, Goldfrapp. So anyway, 4 albums by 4 British artists. At least I'm doing like men and women, and I'll try to kind of like, get to other things too. But thanks for watching, guys. Have a wonderful Memorial Day weekend. Really appreciate all the support and the input. And it's sort of like the weather's been beautiful around here, which is not always the best for business, because people are out enjoying themselves. So I get that. After 3 years of lockdowns and whatever, people are trying to get some sense of normalcy in their summer vacations too. So take time and enjoy the sun a little bit if you can. All right. And enjoy the music. Have a great weekend. Thanks for watching. Next week, huge week. Huge. Foo Fighters, Bob Dylan, Roger Waters, Noel Gallagher, Black Sabbath, and the list goes on. De La Soul. There's a lot next week. So enjoy the kickoff, the unofficial kickoff of summer. Thanks for viewing. R.I.P. Tina. Peace.